Humans show aliens their depictions of them. The aliens stumble backwards, terrified. "You know of the old ones." Silence swallowed the little room as the image on the screen flicked from the Egyptian god Anubis to a more modern depiction of an extraterrestrial. A gray alien with a bulbous head and two huge eyes that looked like black boiled eggs had been jammed sideways into its face. Its body was thin, almost skeletal, with skin that looked like paste had been rubbed onto bone. I looked at Zenith, who had been grinning only a few seconds earlier. Now he was not just silent, but terrified, face pale, eyes wide, pupils dilated. "Sarah," he said, his voice a whisper. He turned and walked towards the desk I was seated behind. "Why did you lie to me?" I took my glass of water and sipped it lazily. I wasn't thirsty, but forcing the conversation to slow would give him time to think logically and grant me the illusion of control. Zenith, our first contact, was little more than a parasite that had wormed its way into a man named Richard Atler. He had crawled into Richard's head and released tendril-like arms that had grown into the man's brain, destroying parts of it, rewiring others. Richard became, in effect, lobotomized. All control of his body had been lost, but most of his self, his memories, were still intact and accessible to Zenith. But Richard must not have seen any Area 51 conspiracies on YouTube, as the image on the screen had shocked the alien. "Lie? What do you mean, lie? I have never lied to you." Zenith stared at me, his voice still breathless. "You know the old ones." A shiver crawled down my spine. In the 3 weeks Zenith and I had been learning about each other, both researching the other's race, this was the first time I had felt uncomfortable being alone with him. I felt my hand drifting to the red button hidden beneath my desk, but forced my arm down to my knee instead. I didn't need security. Zenith hadn't done anything alarming. Not really, and summoning help might burn the delicate bridge of trust we'd been walking together. Besides, plenty of people were watching us through camera lenses. Other researchers, the vice president, military generals looking for an excuse to burn the bug inside Richard's head to dust. That, however, would be a mistake. If Zenith died, his species would know. And unlike Zenith, they wouldn't want to learn. "You told me I was the first," he continued, his voice slow and monotone, barely recognizable from the almost melodic tone he had used up to today. "You told me I was the first contact, and you lied to me, Sarah." Richard's, Zenith's, piercing green eyes locked onto mine. Gray hair hung like a frozen waterfall around his rocky cheeks. Had he always looked slightly menacing? "You are the first alien we've met," I assured him. "At least that we know of." He gestured to the screen with a trembling arm, to the image displayed on it. "No, I am not." "That?" I forced myself to laugh, to try to crack the wall of tension that had suddenly built up between us. "That's from a documentary, a bad one at that. If that creature looks at all like anything else out there, then—" "Look at its skin, Sarah," Zenith said, the shock fading from his face and leaving anger in its place. I did. The gray surface rippled over hundreds of tiny bones around the alien's neck and chest. Organs were visible through it in parts, but only as dark silhouettes, like seeing something beneath the surface of the ocean, but you couldn't be sure what it is until it surfaces. I frowned. "What about it?" Zenith walked to the screen and ran a finger from one collarbone to another. "Do you see how the skin bumps and bobbles?" I nodded. "Like Braille," he said. "Like Braille." "Braille, I wouldn't—" My voice drifted away. The skin did look somewhat like runes had been carved into it, but from beneath, from the way the bones pushed upwards and outwards. "It is the language of the old ones, Sarah. I know it well. It is imprinted on the mind of every species who knows of them." I shook my head. That was impossible. Zenith was our first contact, and that alien he was looking at, that was from a film, a conspiracy documentary. Zenith's voice raised as he said, 1,000,000 species were annihilated trying to stop them, before your sun was even lit. Richard's body began to change. It was growing, wider, taller. The skin on his face began to bleed. It was tearing apart. My breath caught in my throat. I wanted to tell him he was making a mistake, to stop, but I couldn't find the words. There had been signs, he continued, that they might have escaped their fate, little clues left here and there like footprints in the cosmic dust. telltale signs that they might have survived, that they might have tired to rebuild, to create new children to fulfill their believed destiny. He paused. Very few of us gave those rumors credence, Sarah. His face, what remained of it, was red and bloodied. I could see something wriggling behind the stretched sinews beside his eyes. We were fools. Now you must be stopped. I needed to press the button, to call help, but if I did, they'd kill him. And then what would happen to us? The creature was more than twice my size now, as he flipped my desk onto the floor. "Filth!" he screamed, his voice now two sounds, one high, one low. "All of you! You are the children of the old ones! A disease on the body of existence!" His arm swiped at my body, throwing me off my chair. My head landed with a hard crack. Blackness tried to swallow my vision, but I forced it back. He loomed over me, raising his boot above my head. "You will kill us all," he said, as his green eyes met mine. "You're wrong," I gasped, pleaded. "Even if we're their children, we might not become—" His boot came down as the door opened and the room flooded with soldiers. A spray of bullets entered the creature's head. His body rocked. His boot hovered inches from my head. Another round of bullets entered him. He fell in a pool of his own blood to my side. "Hey, are you okay?" A man's face swam in and out of my vision. "Carver? Was that it? Was he a cook?" "No, it was Carter. Army." He knelt next to me, but his voice sounded like he was at least a room away, dull and dampened. "Can we get some help over here?" "The video," I said, my voice a drunken slur. "Video?" He frowned. "What video?" No, it doesn't matter. Not anymore." "What doesn't matter?" I grabbed his jacket and tried to pull myself up. "They won't let us live," I whispered. "Won't ever let us become them. We need to leave. Need to get far away from here." "From D.C.? I shook my head and the dizzy feeling attacked me with twice the force of before. "From Earth." Then my body fell back and the room faded to dark.